Yo, what is going on, everybody? Gabriel Santos here. And in today's video, we're going to talk yet again about relapse when it comes to marijuana addiction and marijuana binging. Okay, so if you're new to this channel, there are a number of videos on this topic of relapse and marijuana addiction on this channel. So feel free to peruse the archives. Um, but today, I specifically want to talk about the way you react when you go on relapse, right? Or when you relapse. And the point is that the ultimate goal here is to obviously shorten how long your relapse period is, how long you end up binging, so that you can be back on track, if you will. And so this is just one insight or something to take into consideration. Um, And the basic idea is this, right? Typically, when people relapse, their reaction to that is one of heavy judgment and criticism, and being very mean to ourselves in our minds and in our hearts, if you will. And for some people, that works, right? Um, and that's kind of one of the themes of this conversation today is you have to do what works. Now, for me, what didn't typically work was being judgmental, right? The reality is that, right? I'm talking about experiences in the past. The reality is that, okay, you know what? I've relapsed. I am full on binging, and it is what it is. And on that note, what had worked for me was to take responsibility for that decision. In fact, I don't even call it relapse because to me, I mean, relapse, I believe by definition is, you revert back to some form of behavior. In this case, addictive behavior with marijuana, right? Um, but in my opinion, the word relapse, which is used mostly in the addiction space, has a lot of negative connotation to it, and I understandably so, right? Relapse usually means you've gone back to some extremely negative form of behavior. Um, but to my point, you're judging it, right? You're judging the behavior, you're judging yourself, and you're making it wrong. Um, and a lot of times, that sense of judgment is a huge, what's the word? It conflicts, especially with the stoner, right? Because it's like on the one hand, the side of you that really loves and enjoys and appreciates marijuana um, doesn't doesn't want to feel judged for being on that side of things, but then the side of you that knows better and what have you judges the side of you that wants to smoke, right? Point is that judgment never seemed to work for me, and so something to consider for you is, instead of going towards judgment, to come from a place of responsibility, right? Taking accountability for your actions, owning the fact that the relapse had nothing to do with cravings, right? Because what's probably going to come over you is a sense of, like, you fucked up and you made a mistake, and here we go again. How could I have done this again, right? Because it's probably not your first time relapsing. But instead of going towards judgment, come from a place of responsibility, self accountability, understanding, and forgiveness. As corny as that might sound, and the point is that by coming from a place of forgiveness, instead of tacking on the negative energy, which will typically keep you in a sense of addiction, right? Because one of the reasons we even smoke in such an addictive way is that we use it to deal with our shitty emotions and our shitty thoughts. And so it becomes a cycle of, like, you're embarrassed and you're embarrassed and you're ashamed of the fact that you've relapsed and you're binging, and your way to deal with the fact that you're ashamed and embarrassed is to keep smoking, because at least that feels good, right? You can avoid those feelings. um, but instead, right, to come from a place of understanding, acceptance, and forgiveness. And what does that look like? What that looks like is, again, in my opinion, it's to start with responsibility, right? So responsibility can be your gateway to forgiveness, and forgiveness can be your gateway to moving on and ending this behavior, at least at that time, right? And so what responsibility looks like is, right, because judgment and shame and embarrassment says what's and anger says what's wrong with you, how could you do this again, oh my god, here we go again, and what are we going to do, are we going to get out of this, what's wrong with you, what's wrong with me, this is I fucked up, what's wrong with me, um god, I'm such an idiot, how could I have done this again, right? That's the general narrative in our heads. And so the step above that is kind of responsibility and forgiveness combined, which is like you take a step back and neutrality. Okay, you take a step back and you go, okay, first of all, it's a choice I made, right? It's not that I chose to relapse, it's that I chose to run to marijuana as my form of coping and my way to deal with myself in my life. And I'm, whether it's unconscious or conscious, I'm choosing to deal with my life that way instead of another way, probably a better way, a healthier way, a more proactive way. And that's okay. And it's critical that you add that piece. You tell yourself that that's okay, right? Not that you're approving of it per se or that you're happy with the behavior, but it's like, again, that's where judgment doesn't really work, at least for me, right? It's like, okay, that is the choice you made, right? Like that is what it is. Neutral. That is what it is. Right? And maybe come from a place of like, and it was okay. Like it was okay that you made that decision. Meaning you're reducing resistance around the fact that you made that decision. You're embracing it, right? You're embracing your mess ups. You're embracing your mistakes. You're making room for the fact that that happened. You're not resisting it, right? And there's a saying that goes, what you resist persists, right? Again, as corny as it sounds. But you get in alignment with the fact that that's what happened, and you might sense this already, but as you go through this process, you're kind of reducing the energetic and emotional load that relapse can often hold for us. It becomes this big deal, this big burden, has so much wrapped up energy in it, typically negative energy. But coming from a place of responsibility, neutrality, forgiveness, acceptance, those things can help you move on, right? Move on, reduce the negative energy and move on, right? And again, so the overarching message of this video is take a look at how you react in your mind and in your emotional, your emotional reaction when you relapse, right? It's probably typically heavy judgment, heavy shame, heavy embarrassment. But instead, try and go towards responsibility, forgiveness, self accountability, acceptance, neutrality, and see where that gets you. Those, that's a big part of my blueprint. Whenever I had relapse, I don't even say it's a relapse, although that's the word to define it. That word just never helped me, man. Like for example, like and again, it's all about what works. If the word relapse works for you and that helps you move forward in your life and towards the goals you have, then go for it. If it doesn't, then feel free to remove it, right? Like, but I get it, right? I understand. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Hopefully this message, give you some insight and helped you out in some kind of way, supported you in your journey. I will not be making a video this next coming week, but I will be back the following week. But anyways, yeah, I appreciate you all. Hope you're having a good day and a good year so far. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.